What do Trump's attacks on Harvard, PBS, and the courts all have in common? It's part of a three-pronged attack on free speech and resistance, and it's straight out of the power grab playbook of authoritarians from the 1930s to the present day. Three key facts. Number one, Trump's trying to silence or control the media.
As I call it, the fake news media.
A free press is so essential to American freedom that it's protected in the First Amendment. But Trump and his team are making it harder for the press and media to hold him accountable and for the public to get straight facts. It doesn't help that a handful of billionaires now control so much of our media. Trump's biggest donor bought one of the top social media platforms and turned it into a MAGA mouthpiece. Trump threatened to make Mark Zuckerberg, quote, spend the rest of his life in prison if Trump wasn't happy with how he got treated on Facebook. And surprise, surprise, Facebook changed its policies to favor Trump. With federal lawsuits hanging over Jeff Bezos' Amazon and federal contracts worth billions for his Blue Origin space program, Trump has a giant carrot and stick to keep Bezos in line. Which might explain why Bezos has suddenly grabbed a stranglehold of the Washington Post's editorial page to bend it in a more conservative direction. Trump has filed frivolous lawsuits against ABC and CBS over their news coverage of him, and even threatened to strip CBS's broadcasting license. And Trump's called for defunding PBS and NPR because he doesn't like the facts they report. Trump's also tried to bar the Associated Press from covering the White House because they pissed him off by calling the Gulf of Mexico by its real name. These are all efforts to bully the press out of covering Trump honestly. Number two, Trump's trying to gut the power of the legal system to keep him in check. Article 3 of the Constitution gives federal courts the power to hold a president accountable, but Trump is openly rejecting this. Most famously, Trump is defying the Supreme Court's unanimous ruling that the White House must facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland dad Trump illegally abducted and sent to a prison in El Salvador. But Trump's also defying lower court rulings, like a ruling that he can't bar the Associated Press from the White House. Notice how these all interconnect? The other side of neutering the courts is to make it harder for Trump's opponents to find a lawyer. Trump has threatened to punish law firms that take cases against him, or that even employ lawyers who have ever been on cases against him. These punishments would include barring the firm's lawyers from even entering federal buildings, which would make it nearly impossible for them to do their jobs. Trump's trying to create a blacklist of lawyers and firms that displease him, and the only way off the blacklist is to pledge loyalty to Trump and do his bidding pro bono. At least 9 major law firms have surrendered to Trump. He suggested he'll be able to force them to do about $1 billion of free MAGA work for him. Number 3. Trump's trying to silence dissent at colleges and universities. These are the strongholds of facts and information, which Trump wants to control. These are also places where young people have historically gathered to express political views and hold protests, dating all the way back to the first recorded American campus protest at Harvard in 1766. Trump has threatened to cut off federal funds to Columbia, Harvard, and other top schools if they don't meet his demands, which include curtailing student protests and giving the Trump admin influence over faculty hiring, student admissions, and even what classes can be taught. Columbia surrendered to Trump's initial demands, but it's still not clear they'll get their federal funding unless they debase themselves further. Harvard rejected Trump's blackmail letter, and Trump immediately hit back by freezing $2.2 billion in grants, and is now trying to strip Harvard of its tax-exempt status and cut billions more in funding. Harvard is suing. They're lucky to have access to top lawyers. Other institutions Trump targets will have a harder time going to court because of the attacks on lawyers we just talked about. Meanwhile, Team Trump has been going after the students themselves. Federal agents have begun disappearing international students who have been involved in campus protests. An imprisoned Tufts student facing deportation seems to have been detained over an op-ed in the student newspaper. A promising line of cancer research reportedly has been frozen at Harvard Med School because ICE has abducted the Russian grad student leading it after she publicly supported Ukraine. About 1,000 students from overseas have had their legal status revoked without any due process or any charges filed against them. Trump's starting with abducting international students, But who's to say he'll stop there? The unifying theme to most of Trump's chaos is using the power he has to hobble any other tenet of society that could keep him in check, even if he has to strip away all the freedoms enshrined in the Constitution to do it.